Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about specifically what it means to have your sun in Libra or your sun in the 7th house. My name is Brandon. I do videos here on YouTube. This is part of a much larger series that I'm working on that is entirely all of the planets in every single sign and every single house. I have done everything prior to Libra in the 7th house. So if you have anything between Aries and Virgo or the 1st and the 6th house, there's a playlist down below you can check out with all of those things. And this is a specific week dedicated to all things Libra and all things 7th house. So if you're new to this channel and you're new to astrology, you don't know any of this stuff, there's a video down below you can check out. Feel free to kind of look into what specifically your chart is and more details about how the way this astrology thing kind of works, right? So if you are new to this, you don't know if you have your sun in the 7th house or your sun in Libra, this video is for you. If you have that placement, if you don't know if you have that placement or not, like I said, check it out down below. If you're interested in anything with me, if you like the way that I speak, like the way that I do readings here, feel free to look at all my offerings and things down below. In addition to that, I'm going to put down below timestamps related to if you have your sun in Libra or sun in the 7th house. You can kind of skip around to those different areas. This is going to be a very interesting video in and of itself because Libra sun is considered to be one of the placements that the sun does not really like to be in. So Libra placements, we're going to kind of see a lot of different things that are called dignity within the Libra kind of part of the chart. So we have the sun by itself is considered to be ruling Leo and considered to be exalted in the sign of Aries. And then the signs opposite that are considered to be its detriment or its debilitation. So or its fall. So if we look to see, we have the sun in its home in Leo, therefore the opposite of that in Aquarius is considered to be debilitated or in detriment. And then if we look to see the sun to be exalted in Aries, we are also looking to see that the sun is considered to be fallen or its opposite of that in the sign of Libra. And so we're going to be kind of talking about all those different things here. So if you have your sun in Libra, make sure to check this out. This is a sign that we are very, very commonly kind of associated with our sun sign, but there are so many different other things besides your sun sign within this series. Obviously, if anything else in Libra, this video is also kind of the start of that series. So we're going to be going through all the other planets within Libra outside the sun. So we have Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, all those different things as well. So without further ado, let's just kind of get started. Right off the bat, we're going to start a little bit with just what the sun means within astrology and what we can kind of expect within that, within the natal chart. And then from there, we're going to talk about the sun in Libra and the sun in the 7th house. So I'll see you guys in the next part. We talk about what the sun generally just means within astrology. All right, so we have the sun within astrology. So the sun in astrology has its own sort of importance within and of itself, because this is a sign that we are really, really focused in on, or rather the planet that we tend to really, really focus on, learn a lot about, and really come to understand very quickly in life. A lot of people understand their sun sign much before they understand much of anything else. And so when we think about the sun, as I had said earlier, the sun is considered to be exalted in the sign of Aries. So therefore, when it is in the sign of Libra, it is going to be struggling a little bit, right? We're going to be talking about that specifically in the sun and Libra portion. But the sun is really about our light, our life force, what we really bring into the world, how we share our creativity, share our life essence, share our joy. It literally just is a lot about our ego. It's about our identity, about how we view ourselves, how we choose to kind of show up in the world, what kind of way we want to see things through, right? If we think about the sun as our light, based on the sign and house placement of the sun, we're going to see that that is going to show what area of life we're focused on and how we're kind of viewing life through that lens, right? So depending upon what the sun sign is, we're going to kind of see different things within how someone can view life, essentially, in some sort of way. There's also the rising sign, the moon sign, all the other different planets within this and different points within the chart that are going to kind of flavor this. But the sun in general really does show what kind of you are able to illuminate really easily and how you view things. And so we are going to kind of talk about quite a lot of different things in this this sun in Libra video here, because there's a lot that I want to kind of touch on, because sun in Libra and sun in the 7th house kind of has a little bit of a difficult representation, I guess I could say. So overall, it's really important to look at your sun sign and the sun aspects to get a better idea of kind of what your identity is being asked to kind of bring in, what you're kind of looking to bring awareness to. The sun also has representatives of the, just in general, your authority, like what you view authority to be. And typically this is going to be more on the patriarchal society. So we're going to look this as more of the males or the men or those rulerships in that regard. So the paternal figures are typically pretty strong in this, the dads, things like that. As well as Saturn. Sun and Saturn both kind of rule those patriarchal kind of authoritative rules. But it can also be with the sun in various signs or just in general. It doesn't really matter because there's other things within the chart that can kind of dictate this. But the mother or whatever whatever the actual authority is within the life, it doesn't have to be a male. It can be a female. So it's about kind of understanding that the sun is the main light and how you see the main light. And the sun in Libra and sun in any sign for that matter can have a father figure or a mother figure that is the main authority, right? It's about understanding what you view authority to be with the sun. So, like I said, without further ado, let's go and just dive into what the sun means within Libra, and I'll see you guys in the next part we talk about that. Okay, so we have the sun in Libra. So the sun in Libra tends to get a pretty much difficult representation online. A lot of the reasoning for that is because of the fact that the sun is considered to be fallen in Libra. So where the sun is exalted in basic dignity, this means that it is going to naturally kind of elevate itself in the sign of Aries, which is obviously opposite the sign of Libra. So when we see the sun in Libra, this tends to kind of bring a little bit of a downing effect on the native, on just the way they view themselves. Because when the sun is all about itself and the identity of how you see the world, how you kind of perceive things, how you view things, and a lot of the sun is all about us. It's our self-centeredness, it's our ego, it's how we view ourselves, and it's in the sign relative to the other. This is going to have a very kind of difficult approach where their relationships become so much more important than the average person. As we'll see kind of through these Libra and 7th house videos here, we're going to see that there's going to be this kind of really big relational theme coming up because the 7th house and Libra are all things related to the other person who is there for you, your mirror, if you will, your partner, who you partner with, the public in a lot of ways, who you do sales with, your clients, right? Those are all 7th house and Libra related things. A Libra, for the most part, is related specifically to all things, relational, in that regard, relational values, relational kind of connections, how to form contracts, things of that nature, which we'll see more when we get to Mercury and Libra, things like that. But the sun in Libra, these are going to have a little bit more difficult relationships with, just within general. They're not really going to be the best. They are going to be good at relating to people, but they're going to almost have this over identification with their partner to a lot of degrees. And the sun is really trying to see things from someone else's perspective. So typically when we have the sun in Libra, this is a soul that really wanted to learn specifically how the world sees them, how other people see them, and kind of works within that. So with sun in Libra, and more so with sun in 7th house, there is this aspect with these people because it is also Venusian sign, which I'll get to in a moment. But because it's a very relational sign, they can have this chameleon-esque kind of quality to them where they are really great at connecting with people, but they don't necessarily see themselves, right? They don't really know what their role is if they're not in a relationship or if they're not within a partnership or if they're not connecting with someone. Because the thing about Libra is it's really about seeing another side of yourself mirrored to you, right? It's not like Aquarius, which is another sign that the sun doesn't do that well in for different reasons. Because when we think about Libra, it has this one-on-one quality. It's very much focused upon that. It's not really necessarily focused around the collective in a lot of ways. And because of that, we tend to see more of a natural kind of people pleasing and kind of needing to be with the other person, needing to connect with the other person, know how to work with the other person. Those sorts of conversations can kind of happen quite often with the sun Libra, sun 7th house conversation. I really would urge anyone with the sun in Libra to really do some really deep analysis of who they are in various relationships. Because I think one of the things that really benefits an air sign, whether it's Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, is the ability and the instinct to compartmentalize. And when it's the sun, it's about compartmentalizing of who you are. So the thing about this, and this is also relative to sun and seventh house people, but the thing about this that's really interesting is there's a consistent theme within relationships that they might be so focused on the other person that they're not seeing that they themselves are the consistent factor, right? And you'll see this a lot, like I said, with a lot of Libra placements. You'll see them as people that are so focused in on the other person and focused in on what that person is saying and doing and acting and all of those things. And they're not necessarily aware all the time that they are the consistent role throughout all those relationships. So this is where you can see, people getting involved with the same dynamic over and over and over again within a relationship, not realizing that, yes, they are attracting the same person over and over again, but they're also not aware of the fact that they are the consistent factor that is attracting that, right? So that is something I think is really, really important within Sun Libra, Sun 7th housers, is being able to be aware, and this is more relative specifically to Sun 7th house, but it's being aware of who you are within each relationship and how there's a consistency within that, and maybe how there's also an inconsistency to that, because there's going to be kind of this people pleasing, kind of you're a different person with each person kind of thing, especially if we have like a watery sun in the 7th house, more so when we get to that in a second. But it is important also to look at what your values are, what your relationships are, what you really, really care about in a person, what you want to have in a partner, right? What you want to have within yourself. And so the sun in Libra, any Libra placement for that matter, it's really important to look at Venus and what Venus is doing within the chart, because that is going to dictate a lot of what the sun and any Libra placement is going to try to use to understand itself. So if we have a sun in Libra, but we have a Venus in Virgo, or a sun in Libra with a Venus in Libra, it's going to be very different. The qualities of love, the qualities of how it wants to love is going to be very, very unique to that Venus placement. If you have the sun in Libra, but then you have, your Venus retrograde or your Venus in Scorpio or even in Sagittarius, we can see these very different kind of qualities. Because the thing about Sun Libra is you're going to have your Venus sign in either one of 5 signs. It's either going to be Libra itself, which is the sign that, that is the same as the sun, or it's going to be Virgo, Leo, which are the 2 signs prior to the sun, or it's going to be Scorpio or Sagittarius, because of the fact that Venus can only go within 2 signs of the sun. So there is going to be kind of this this difference here where Venus is really only going to work in different areas. And think about the sun in Libra. Both of the signs right next to Libra are not necessarily the best for Venus. I would really urge you, if you have your Venus in Virgo or in Leo, to check out my Venus Virgo and Venus Leo video, because those are definitely going to help in a lot of ways. The thing about this in specific that I feel like I need to talk about here is that if you have your sun in Libra and Venus in either Virgo or Leo, but more specifically in Virgo, there is a likelihood that you were born around a Venus retrograde. Same with potentially Venus in Scorpio as well. So with that, there is a much bigger conversation to be had around relationship values and reevaluating of relationships, and how you feel yourself to be, right? The Venus retrograde cycle is really important. So if you have your Venus retrograde, I'm not going to make a whole separate video on this as of yet, because it would be a whole different thing that I don't really want to get into, but there is a great video on Venus retrograde. It's a little bit more like studious and kind of more academic, but I will put that down below. It's another great astrologer that went through a lot of Venus retrograde stories and kind of what we can expect with Venus retrograde. So because the reason I'm saying it in this video in specific is because you're a Libra sun, right? So the Venus placement has a lot more of an importance, and this in particular, Venus placement is likely to have, is more likely than not to have a Venus retrograde within it. So there is kind of these conversations that need to be had. So anyway, all that aside, look at your Venus placement, look to what's going on with your Venus, because there is going to be a really big importance upon however Venus is looking, right? And like the thing is, if you have your sun in Libra, and let's say your Venus is with Libra, or I'm sorry, in Libra and with Jupiter, or with a trine with Jupiter and Gemini, or however it may be, there's so many different ways that this chart can play out, and that's why it's really hard to just focus in on what the sun in Libra means, because there's so many different layers that I'm sure when you look at your natal chart, you're probably like, what is all these things, right? So I really urge you to look at your values, look at your relationships, look at who you're attracting as a sun in Libra person, and look at your Venus aspects. I know I'm not going to be going into that in specific here today, or in this series at all, but it is important to look to see what your Venus aspects are for a better idea of what else is going on, right? If we have Venus with Saturn, Venus with Mars, Venus with Pluto, all those things are going to layer the values and how you value things much differently. You know, there's a lot of different conversations to be had around values and how one uses money and how one views money when it comes to their Venus placement. And so it is important to kind of layer that into all the Libra videos, but most importantly the sun, because this is a really big part of your chart, as it becomes kind of like your secondary ruler in kind of a lot of different ways. So definitely look into that for sure. But really with the sun in Libra, it's really about knowing how to express who you are. And it's hard to find that when so much of you is really brought out from different people in different ways. And I think the gift of Sun Libra and Sun 7th house, and just Libra in general, I don't even think it's even just the sun, is the gift to be able to see things from someone else's perspective. And that's where we see a lot of amazing counselors and therapists and PR. PR is such a Libran thing to do. PR and art and law, those are all things related to Libra, and the ability to have a very beautiful life, a very relationship-oriented life, but also a peaceful life, because Libra is a peacekeeping sign. It is the one that wants to keep the peace, it wants to understand what peace is. And so within a relationship, and obviously this is really dependent on a lot of other things in the chart, but Libras are really about learning how to create peace and harmony. And the thing that sucks about having a Libra sun sometimes is they're not always seeing their role, because there's so much involved with other people, right? And the other parts of the story, or the other part of the story, I guess is more so what I should say there. So it is something that I would really look into seeing what your relationships have been, how they have been. Look at your values. Look at what you care about. Look at what you care within a partner, and what you care for, and what you want out of a partner. Because when you're a Venusian individual, you have a lot of things that you can bring to you, and it's really about understanding what those values are, what you really care about, what you really want to invest your time in, and what you want people to invest into you. The Sun in Libra also has this gift of being seen really well when they are with a partner. So this is once again where their identification with a partner can be a little bit stronger than most, where they're over-identified with a partner, where once that relationship kind of begins to fall for various different reasons, because no relationship is permanent as much as we would love for them to be, there is an inevitable kind of end to that, and that's where we get to Scorpio, which we'll get to that way later. But point being, look at your relationships, your role in them, and have a separateness to that, which is hard for the Sun in Libra to do. I understand that. And that's where there's really big importance to look at various other parts of your chart, like your Mars and your rising sign, things like that, to kind of see where the Sun in Libra is at. And then, of course, look at your Sun aspects too. So if your Sun is in Libra and aspected in certain ways, it's going to play out how you view relationships, how you view your role within relationships too. I think there's like so many different combinations of this. So I'm not going to go into all of them in regards to the sun in Libra, but it is important, as I said, to kind of see also what house the sun's into, and what area of life that sun is trying to really bring in relational things, bring in someone else's opinion, bring in a partnership to kind of help with like balance those things out and see yourself more clearly. That's the thing about Libras. They're able to really bring out a lot in other people in ways that they wouldn't necessarily be able to do if they had a different sun sign, which I think is a really big gift. And the sun in Libra is able to bring out a lot of other people's stuff and be seen really well with partnerships. And that's why counselors and lawyers and people that are in public relations and human resource are really, really Libran, because their ability to kind of help mitigate and help see both sides so deeply, and kind of help find a middle ground. So I love Libra suns. They are one of my favorite sun signs. And I've had quite a few experiences with them, so I'm very grateful for all the Libra suns that are out there watching this. And if you guys are interested in anything with me as a Libra sun, feel free to check out anything down below. If you want me to look more at your natal chart, go through those things. I have all my offerings, all my stuff down below there. Let's move on though to the sun in the 7th house. So think about this too. If you have your sun in Libra, I'd recommend you also watch the sun in the 7th house too, because a lot of those things are going to kind of play into that as well. So check it out if you're interested in that, because there's kind of more layers to this that I'm going to kind of go through in that as well. So check that out in a second, but I'll see you guys in the next part. We're talking about what specifically it means to have your sun in the 7th house. All right, so we have the sun in the 7th house. So the sun in the 7th house is a pretty unique placement because of the fact that this is considered to be when at sunset. So you are born at sunset. This instantly kind of has its own kind of flair to it, its own kind of beauty to it, right? When we think about naturally sunrise or sunset, and kind of the omen that kind of can bring, in either way, and kind of the beauty of both of those different lights, there is a lot to be said about the sun in the 7th house. Because sun in the 7th house is right about to set, and it is kind of like beginning, its descent beyond our visual, and it's really learning how to kind of bridge those two areas, right? So if the rising sign is the bridge between our, our spiritual side and our more physical side, and those and where those two areas meet, the descendant or the 7th house, this can actually be where we are doing that with other people. This is where there's a really cool gift. If you have your sun in the 7th house, any 7th house placement is going to have a somewhat of a relational gift to it. When we put the sun here in the 7th house, there is so much beauty to be had around this. And a lot of the sun 7th house people, in addition to sun in Libra, but more so sun in 7th house, they're so easily able to find the beauty and the love in another person. Because within them, if we go with the same analogy of the sunset, every single person in them that they meet, they're kind of bringing out that beauty. They're bringing out that kind of beautiful awareness of another person, and that beautiful light that tends to happen around a sunset, where there's a reason why when we think about sunsets, for the most part, there's this analogy or this kind of this concept that sunsets are meant to be enjoyed with another person. There's so much media specifically around dates that are watching sunsets. Sunrises can also have the same thing, but sunrises tend to have more of a media interpretation of being individuals going and seeing themselves, right? And going for their own purpose, right? When we see a lot of media with sunrises, we see, someone who stayed up through a very long night, did a lot of work, or had a very large epiphany, and they then wake up, and they see a sunrise, and they find that hope again, right? And a sunset is more of the beauty of what is to come from whatever that connection is, right? So I say all that, I go with that analogy just because it's really important to bring this up, because this is the only house that the sun is considered to be in. It's a sunset. It's right around sunset. The 6th house can also have this quality to it a little bit if it's right on that cusp there. But for the most part, 7th house is pretty much right around that exact time of day, and it has its own beauty and its own marker, and its own story within it. So I really felt like I needed to kind of really bring that to life and really bring that to front and center in the very beginning of this portion, because the the beauty of a relationship is so prominent, and the beauty of a sunset is so it's so ingrained in our psyche and ingrained in our memories that there's so much that can be said around how we view other people and how we view the shared experience of a sunset, similarly to the shared experience of a sunrise. But sunrises tend to be more quiet and more self-reflective, and sunsets tend to be more of a shared experience. So in that regard as well, having the sun in the seventh house has this quality of sharing experiences with people, sharing your light with people. It's a lot of what we tend to see with seventh house planets is there's a sharing with another person, and this could be multiple parties too. This could be working within multiple parties, kind of like what I said earlier with the sun in Libra. There can be this quality of kind of mediation and working within kind of HR or public relations, and kind of learning how to work with other people is a very good quality of seventh house and Libra placements, is the ability to find harmony, find peace within someone else. Now, depending upon the sign the sun is in the seventh house, is going to kind of flavor a lot of different things here. So if we put the sun in a Martian ruled sign, so if we put it in either Aries or Scorpio, this is going to have a very different quality to how it relates to others. It's going to have this relationships that are very self-driven, self-focused, and almost like a battle in quite a lot of ways. They're gonna want their relationships to have this this kind of passion to them. Similarly to the sun in Leo as well, you'll kind of see kind of this passion, this fiery desire to kind of be within a relationship and to work towards a relationship with the sun there. The sun really wants to be seen for the person they are within that partnership. And obviously the sun in Libra is very different than the sun in the seventh house, because the sun in the seventh house can have a bunch of different signs to it, which is where the layers kind of come in a lot more. And I think all of these layers are relative to the ideal partner they want to have, or the powerful partner, or how they want to be seen in a relationship, how they want to work within a relationship. I'd mentioned this a little bit earlier in the sun in Libra portion, but for example, if someone had sun in the seventh house, but it was in a watery sign, this would be like, so this is like more than likely more so if like it was the moon here in like a watery sign, but still like the sun in a watery sign in the seventh house, especially if it's like Pisces or like literally any of them, honestly, there's this quality of emotionality and therapy, and being a therapist, being a caretaker, being someone who wants to just emotionally help somebody. That's a really prominent thing here when we see the sun in a water-based sign. Scorpio can have a little bit of a struggle with that because they're going to have some very intense relationships. But the sun in Aries is going to have a very strong will and a strong desire to be seen as a very powerful partner, which they will be in that regard. It's really interesting when we see the sun in Aries in the seventh house, because there's going to be this kind of like back and forth of like wanting to be a very powerful partner and have their own individuality, but then also like be forced to be within a partner. So we can see people that have really great their business maybe specifically around partnerships, or around, you could see this with like potentially like family marriage counseling. I could see that, but I'm thinking more of like contract negotiation. That's also something I could see with like a sun Saturn individual, like sun in Capricorn, sun in Aquarius, but that's a little bit different for different reasons. But I'll get to that in a second. So anyway, but yeah, the sun and Mars individuals are going to have a very like strong fighter energy to their relationships. They're going to want someone to motivate them. They're going to want to motivate their partner. They're going to want to have a driven partner in a lot of ways, with that sun kind of illuminating their partner's goals and their partner's ambitions and their drive to be with someone that is empowering, or that they can empower. So this is a great coaching aspect. This is a great like physical fitness kind of coach in that regard, or someone who is really like fighting for their client, right? That's something you could see here with sun seventh house in general, but in a Martian sign more so. I see it there too. Now, sun in a Venus ruled sign. So I did sun in Libra, obviously. And then sun in Taurus I did as well. But these are both going to be kind of like this softer, this more like artistry kind of stuff. So we could see here with the sun in Taurus in the seventh, we could see this as someone who's like an appraisal, or like, or I guess the word would be like an appraiser for someone, or works within kind of finding someone else's value, someone else's kind of resources. Financial advisor could be really great for this. Also, sun in Scorpio can have this quality too, for different reasons. But the sun in Taurus and the sun in Libra both have this kind of like building up of their partner, building up of who they're with, building up of kind of their kind of contacts and their clientele. So real estate could also be something here with the sun in Taurus, like real estate clientele. There's a lot of client-based stuff when we get in the 7th house here. There's going to be so many different conversations about just clients and who you work with and how you see other people, how you're showing up. And I think the sun in the 7th overall has this really great quality of bringing out the best in the other person, and bringing out a lot of awareness of the other person, which has so much of a gift and so much of a light and so much of an inspiration to that other person. So that's why we see a lot of coaches and a lot of client-based businesses, and just relational-based people when we put any planet in the 7th house, but especially the sun, because they want to see themselves working with a person or working with the public or making contracts and making things kind of balanced out and making things work better for people. It's really, really beautiful here. Anywho, so moving on. So sun in Mercury ruled sign, we have sun in Gemini and in Virgo. This is a little bit different because this is going to have more of the kind of like this is way more contract based. These are the ones that, and this is more Mercury in the 7th house too, but this is very much people that are going to be a lot of consulting businesses, which I'm sure is very much still client based, but these are the social media managers. These are the ones that are even in tech and help people through, kind of helping their own business. Business consultants will see kind of like ghostwriters as well. I could see this if we had like the sun in Mercury. I'm sorry, the sun in Gemini and then like Mercury in the 8th house in Cancer. I could see that being like a ghostwriter to some degree. Sun in Virgo with like the moon in Leo. I'm so sorry, Mercury in Leo can also have that as well. That's gonna be an interesting one, because the thing with the sun in the 7th house in a mercurial sign, it's gonna place, much like I was saying with Venus earlier with sun in Libra, it's gonna place Mercury in one of those 3 houses, the 6th, 7th, or the 8th, which are gonna have their own kind of story within themselves. So if you have your sun in a Mercury ruled sign in the 7th house, check out my Mercury. If you have your Mercury in the 6th, check out that video for sure, because there's a lot of different qualities that you may have to kind of bring to light within somebody there. And then obviously if you have Mercury in the 7th or in the 8th, check those videos out as they come out here. But there is a lot of qualities with the sun in the Mercury ruled sign of just really having this kind of like quick mind with other people. So you could see a lot of like really like even people that are like potentially behind the scenes or managing kind of some sort of media, and this could even be like managing like a news anchor. That's something you could see as well too. Like a news anchor is very like sun Mercury, or like a weatherman is like very like sun Mercury in the 7th house. Like it's very much someone that the public recognizes that helps them through their day. That's like a very mercurial thing. Sun in the 7th house and that there's a lot with the sun in Gemini and Virgo in the 7th. There's a very much like a lot of different job opportunities, a lot of different like working with people opportunities, a lot of sales. Sales is huge for this one. Especially more so sun in Gemini than sun in Virgo. Sun in Virgo has more of a quality of like health advisement, and kind of health-based businesses and things relative to improving upon someone's like life force, right? But their relationships are going to be really interesting. There's going to be kind of this dualistic quality to them, maybe having multiple different partners, multiple different relationships, multiple different approaches to relationships. Yeah, really interesting there. But like I said, there is this quality of kind of speaking to a lot of different audiences, and relating to a lot of different people. That's really interesting there with sun Mercury in the 7th. Anywho, so sun in the sun and sun in the moon's sign here. So I've kind of referenced the sun in Cancer and the sun in Leo earlier, but the sun in Leo here, this is going to be like a really great, once again, a really great counselor, because of the fact that there is this natural gift that they give. But the sun in Leo can have a little bit more of an issue with making themselves the center of the conversation too many times. And so there is something to be said about that with sun in Leo in the 7th, because there's almost this, and similarly with the sun in Aries in the 7th, because the sun does so well in those signs, that if you put it in the 7th house where it's kind of forced to be with other people and forced to see other sides of the story, it can kind of still find ways to bring its attention or the attention of others back to itself, which is not really what the sun wants to do in the 7th house. It wants to kind of learn how to balance those things and learn how to work with someone else. So it's a really beautiful placement here with the sun and Leo in the 7th, but there is definitely a quality of like royalty or worshiping in that regard in relationships. But also there's this really, really, really great gift with the sun and Leo of really bringing out a lot of people's optimism and joy and positivity with the sun in its own sign there. So there is a lot of good qualities there of really bringing out someone else's inspiration, which I really, really love for sun and Leo individuals. They're really beautiful in that regard. So if you have your sun and Leo, obviously, if you have anything prior to Libra and the sun, check out those videos because I've made all of them, like a lot of these videos already. Sun and Cancer as well. This is once again like a very prominent sort of emotionally supportive person. So you'll see a lot of therapists with this one. Sun and Cancer just has a lot of therapeutic energy to it in and of itself. But in the 7th, there's like an overabundance of that, or a larger desire to want to be within an emotional center with someone. Family counseling, real estate investing, but more so real estate kind of consulting, kind of manage people's finances, money, things like that. Really interesting there. Obviously look to your moon sign for that one as well. Now we have sun in Jupiter ruled signs. So we have sun in Sag, sun in Pisces in the 7th. These are both very philosophical. These people are going to have really interesting relationships, but relationships that expand their opportunities and expand how they view themselves and how they view the meaning behind things. So there's a lot of teacher-student kind of things here. And this is where you'll see a little bit of difference between the sun and mercurial signs versus the sun and Jupiterian signs in the 7th house. Because the sun in the mercurial sign in the 7th house is going to have a lot of things to say about what it wants from another person, what it wants to give to. It's a lot about the broadcast of information, or kind of just like talking about a bunch of different things and kind of just giving the information to the other person, versus sun in a Jupiter ruled sign being Sagittarius and Pisces is going to have more of a learning from another person, wanting to be a part of something, wanting to kind of extract more meaning from who they're talking to. And so they're going to have a lot more philosophical conversations and a lot more kind of stories to tell with that person, and a lot more really philosophical approaches to relationships. They're probably going to have more foreign and culturally centered relationships and culturally centered kind of lives in general, right? That's something that I think is really fun about when we get to the Sag and Pisces placements, is there's these kind of like bigger, larger than life's approach to things that allows them to have a lot of meaning, a lot of purpose, and extract a lot from those relationships. Honestly, there's a lot they could learn from relationships. These are the people that go in relationships and have these experiences. I'm thinking of the book Eat, Pray, Love, which was all about this woman who had essentially gone on a pilgrimage, for lack of a better word, to kind of find love again. And it's very much like sun Sag, sun Pisces in the 7th, like kind of finding that. And she went and she explored all these things in realm of spirituality. And I think she went to like Italy, and she went to various different like other countries to study like meditation and things like that. And she studied a lot of different things. And then in that process, she found love again. She actually found her partner in that way. So that's a very much like, that's like kind of a larger than life kind of example. But if you have your sun in the 7th house in a Jupiter ruled sign, I would urge you to kind of look at that conversation and the identification of kind of like looking at all this meaning I can get from relationship, and all I can learn from the process of looking for a relationship and looking for that person that aligns with my beliefs. That's a really big thing with sun and Jupiter ruled signs. Anywho, sun and Saturnian ruled signs, the final ones here. So sun and Saturn ruled signs is going to have a little bit more of a mutedness to it, obviously. These are business consultants. These are definitely bosses. These are definitely people that are coaches in a very strong, independent way. They make money. They definitely want to be a part of, they're very much valuing their relationships, and they take the relationships very seriously. The sun in Capricorn in the 7th is going to have more of a strict actual likelihood of business with relationships and contracts and lawyers. We could see lawyers very prominently with sun in Capricorn, because Saturn is considered to be exalted in Libra, and there's some loose connections with sun in the 7th house and sun in Libra. And so there could be something here. Same with Sun in a Jupiter ruled sign too. There is this kind of like legal kind of connections there too, because Jupiter and Saturn both have kind of these legal connections to them. And the Sun is about how you see yourself. And Sun in Capricorn can have like a very, very strict regimen in who they do contracts with. So you could see if you want to get in a contract negotiation conversation, go to a Sun in Capricorn in the 7th house. Sun in Capricorn in general can do that, but Sun in Capricorn in the 7th house, they're going to be like on top of it, and they're going to want to make sure everything is like sturdy and stable and good and strong in a lot of ways. Sun in Aquarius is going to have a little more of a struggle with that. These are where you're going to see more of the really interesting relationships, because the thing about this one is that this is actually, and I should have brought this up earlier, but this is one of the ones that you're going to see the chart ruler in the 7th. Okay. And because of that, this person's relationships are going to have a lot more of an importance, because not only are they ruled by the sun, being a Leo rising, but their sun sign is an Aquarius in that 7th house. So their relationships as a Sun and Aquarius individual, as a Leo rising in the 7th house, Leo rising with Sun and Aquarius in the 7th house, there is so much of an importance for them to figure out their relationships, because they themselves, being the chart ruler, are going to the 7th, and it's not really comfortable here. And so we're going to see a lot of those really, really deep relational kind of lessons with this particular placement, because they're really struggling to see who they are. They have to see themselves in kind of all different facets and compartmentalize themselves and all these different things. And their relationship life is going to be very, very scattered. So until they're able to see themselves more clearly. And I whenever I think of Aquarius, and I'm so excited to get to Aquarius eventually, because I just love Aquarius placements. I have them, so that's probably why. But it's because there's this idea of kind of fracturing or kind of mirroring and kind of breaking a mirror apart and putting it back together. That's kind of the premise of Aquarius. And if you have your Sun Aquarius in the 7th house, like I said, it's your chart ruler, so you're going to have a really big lesson around relationships and how to bring those parts of you back together from all the different ways that you can see yourself in another person. That's all about what the 7th house is about. It's about seeing yourself in another person. Sun in Capricorn has a little bit more of a responsibility with that, which is why they can have more businesses with that, and they're much more careful with who they kind of connect with. Aquarius can also do that as well, but they have a lot more lessons in and of themselves to really learn with that. So just really look into that as well, if you have specifically your Sun Aquarius in the 7th house, because that's just a whole conversation in and of itself to talk about. Yeah, so I think that's really all of them, and I think there's just so much with the Sun in the 7th house, and this whole 7th house series is going to be such a conversation, because there are so many different relationships that can kind of come from this, and all of them with the Sun in the 7th house are going to have a quality of kind of leadership and light and inspiration. And so it's about following that inspiration of that relationship, following that inspiration of that partnership, of that client, of that specific, connection you have with someone, and following that and seeing where that guides you and how you feel lit up by that thing, how you feel more of yourself, right? That is really the gift of the Sun in the 7th house, is following that light that someone else is able to bring out in you, and seeing how you can maintain that light when you're not with another person, or how you can potentially bring that light to other relationships or other aspects of your life, right? And that's why it's important to look at your Sun's ruler as well. So if your Sun is in a Jupiterian sign, look to Jupiter. Mercury ruled sign, look to Mercury, stuff like that. There's so many different layers to this, and I really, really urge you, if you are interested in anything outside of this with astrology, I have plenty of videos here about all the different combinations as of thus far in this series, and I'll be coming out with all the rest of them in the future, obviously. But if you're interested in anything with me, feel free to check down below, because this is what I do. I absolutely love and enjoy being able to do this as often as I do, be able to share my guidance, share my perspective, share what I know about astrology with the world, and it is so much fun to me, and I'm just so happy, and I hope that any of you that may have watched this video get something out of this and enjoy this video, and understand that there is so much value you have within your relationships, and you are meant to be within relation and connect with people and understand your role within relationships. And I think there's so much of a gift within that, and I'm just grateful to be able to do this, and kind of bring this to your your page, wherever you're watching this from, wherever whatever device you're on. I just appreciate this. And if this video even helps one person, that's all I care about. I just love being able to do this. This means the world to me. And so thank you for sitting through this, however long you may have sat through it. And yeah, if you're interested in anything with me, there's videos down below, there's resources down below, readings, things like that. So yeah, thank you so much for everybody that has watched and will watch these videos. Thank you so much once again, and I will see you guys in the next video where we talk about the next part of Libra week. So I will see you guys in the next one. So thank you so much once again. Much love. I'll talk to you guys soon.